A very good evening to you and welcome to RTV News with me, Fiona Mbawazi. President Paul Kagame says that despite the delay in the implementation of the Continental Free Trade Area due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this pandemic has shown that collaborative action is now more important than ever for the continent.
1st March 2018, close to 50 African Union member states signed the African Continental Free Trade Area in Kigali. The commencement of trade within the African Continental Free Trade Area was slated for 1st July 2020. However, due to COVID-19 pandemic effects, this was pushed to 1st January 2021. With just a few weeks to go, various African leaders met under the CFTA Business Forum to look into how this can better be implemented. President Paul Kagame, who led the African Union at the time of the signing, called for collaborative action to rebuild the economies and strengthen Africa's resilience to future shocks.
2 years ago, we signed a historic agreement and together wrote a new chapter in the story of African integration. The COVID pandemic has delayed the start of trading, but we must stay on course. This collaborative action is now more important than ever to rebuild our economies and strengthen Africa's resilience to future shocks. So let's get on with it.
The AfCFTA paves the way for nations to benefit from interregional trade within the African continent. Economists believe that it is also an opportunity for the entrepreneurs from African countries to start working together in trade tariff-free environment.
Now, for the past 5 years, the percentage of women who have opted for the family planning in Rwanda has increased by at least 10%. Now, this is due to the easy access to these services, although on one hand, according to teenage girls, they are still denied these services by the law.
The 6th Rwanda Demographic and Health Survey shows that 14% of women that have requested for birth control prescriptions don't get them, especially teenagers who are denied these services due to the law that prohibits this. Some people are now requesting for this law to change. To me, I wish as a country and our culture should permit the teenagers to use birth control methods. There are options of contraceptive pills and injections. It would be nice if they were easily accessed. A cross-section of citizens are consistently putting pressure on various institutions to change this law, hindering the youth from accessing birth control services. The main reason for this advocacy is the issue of unwanted pregnancies among young girls, which is 30,000 per year. The Rwanda representative of the United Nations Population Fund, Mark Brian Strainer, says this issue requires intervention of various institutions.
Addressing teenage pregnancy is not a health issue alone. The Health and the Ministry of Health has an important role, but there's a role for the Ministry of Education to make sure that comprehensive sexuality education is available. There's a role for the Ministry of Justice to make sure we have a supportive legal environment and policy framework. There's a role for local government to be working with communities and with traditional leaders and faith-based organizations. There's a role for the Ministry of Youth to make sure young people are leading and participating in the discussion.
The Minister of Health, Dr. Daniel Ngamije, says debates on this issue are necessary due to the country's vision. We wish to get to the bottom of this issue and find a solution for it, because in the plans we want to include in NST1, a 16-year-old should be permitted to work in case they were not able to finish school or join technical schools. Some of them live alone and might undergo many challenges, especially the girls. She could get raped while her parents live at the countryside, and this is why we need to see to this issue. On one hand, while the young girls are still denied these services, the number of those that are legally permitted is increasing, as observed from 2015 to 2020. The rate has risen from 47.5% to 58%, meaning they have increased by 10.5%. The chief advisor for the Director General of the World Health Organization, Professor Sinet Fiseha, says the World Health Organization is confident that Rwanda will achieve the SDG goals.
And today what we saw was for each commitment that was made, what would it take to operationalize it? So we were able to see the actual plans that, and the work stream that needs to happen, including the workforce that need to be trained, the advocacy work, the change in the legal framework, the policy environment, as well as the service delivery and the resources needed to deliver on this action plan. So when you have, such a clearly delineated action plan, it makes it a lot more easier to operationalize. So the fact that this is being done in, frankly, less than a year, the ICPD meeting was last February in Kenya. So we are now seeing a very clear action plan, and that is leaving me with a lot of optimism and hope about what is possible.
In particular, the conference highlighted Rwanda's progress in fulfilling its previous pledges at the 1994 International Conference on Health in Cairo, a pledge that is largely based on reproductive health services. Jane Mutoni reporting for RTV.
Now, nationwide launch of the new Budehe categories kick-started off this Friday across the country, with some of those categorizers saying they are happy to be part of these as opposed to when they were categorized before without their presence.
In Katabaro village in Nyarugenge district, the residents of the village were in their cells with their leaders calling out names of heads of families, explaining how the families stand, and together they would agree to the Ubudehe category they belong to. This placement in the new Ubudehe categories is done for the local population, who say they are happy with the categories they've been given because it's different from the previous ones, where some were put in classes they didn't belong to. They gave us category D and we're happy with this. And if there are any developmental changes, we can even get out of it and go to C. In the past, there would be misinformation and you'd get a wrong classification, but this time we were present. On the other hand, in this new classification of Ubudehe, there have been those who are dissatisfied with what they've been given. I'm really not happy with the Class C I was given because I stay alone and I don't work. I don't see how my neighbors can put me in Class C. I would ask to be put in D. Given that the people have asked her to come up and explain, we won't let one citizen be the one that goes back dissatisfied, so we will help her. This process where people are required to be there in person is proving to be a challenge, especially in Kigali city, because most people go to work and therefore don't attend these meetings. However, the Director General of the Local Administrative Entities Development Agency, LODA, Nyinawagaga Claudine, says that enough time has been allocated for this activity, so no one will miss it. People should be involved in the community meetings because that is where they will be further explained to about the new classification categories. We have planned for 3 days so that no household will miss out. The new Ubudehe categories are now 5 instead of the usual 4, with the wealthiest put in Class A to those in need of government assistance being put in Class E. Reporting for RTV, Gloria Mutesi.
Now, as the first parliamentary ordinary term for the year 2020-2021 came to an end, the Senate of Rwanda came back to the different activities accomplished, including some responsibilities related to the fundamental principles and evaluation of how the political parties work. Now, the Senate also approved the appointment of 6 leaders, amongst them the ombudsperson, ambassadors and other high-ranking officials. The education sector was also mentioned as part of the priorities as the students are going back to school.
Inteko rusange yagejejweho raporo ya komisiyo y'imibereho y'abaturage n'uburenganzira bwa muntu.
The report of the well-being of the population and the Human Rights Commission highlighted the way some Rwandan prisoners are overloaded, the level of fighting against sexual crimes committed on kids, and the early pregnancy cases. The Political and Governance Commission report came back to the fact that some individuals punish people who do wrong instead of reporting those crimes to the organs in charge of that, and the fact that the local authorities don't meet the deadline of approving the decisions made in general meeting of the population. On the side of the Commission of Finance and Economic Development, development, the implementation of the government plans was the focus of their report in order to promote Made in Rwanda.
Mu birebana no guteza imbere ibikorerwa mu Rwanda, Made in Rwanda.
Now, the government of Rwanda has relocated the mining cause to Rutongo sector, an area that is known to have a lot of mines. Now, this was showcased this Friday on the International Day for the Mines Awareness, aimed to enhance more skills in this field.
Mining trainings were usually provided in Kigali. However, students in this field did not have a place to put into practice what they learned orally. Relocating mining classes to Rutondo, which is one of the areas with mines that existed in the colonial times, gives hope that these students will get more skills in this field, as showcased at the International Day for Mine Awareness ceremony. Where we were starting from at first, it was hard for us to get a mine where we can intern from or put in practice what we learn in class, but now it's going to be easy to get hands-on. All of us as students in mining, we are happy. This is truly something to be grateful for. The Minister of State in charge of ICT Technology, Vocation, Education and Training, Honorable Irere Claudette, says apart from technical and vocational students studying at the school, this school shall also help students in need of short courses. We already had mining courses in Kigali, but students were coming here for practice. We realized we were paying the Kigali branch for an incomplete job. The first to be relocated will be the first and second year, because the third year is already finishing the course. Then the new students will be joining in. Another thing that we shall focus on is providing short courses to those that are already working. The CEO at Rwanda Mines, Petroleum and Gas Board, Francis Gatare, says this shall increase the productivity and add more emphasis to modern mining. Knowledge and skills help miners to know how to protect their own lives and increase productivity, though there are still low skills when it comes to using machines or technology, be it on how to protect themselves from harm or how to increase productivity when using them. According to the 7-year government plan, it was expected that mining will generate $800 million, equivalent to nearly 800 billion Rwandan francs of income in 2020. In 2024, mining is expected to generate $1.5 billion of income to the country. This vision was affected by the COVID-19 pandemic and the international prices that kept on fluctuating. Jane Mutoni reporting for RTV.
Well, thank you, Jane, for that story. Refugees in Mugomga camp and residents that live near the camp believe that their joint forces will have a positive impact on the existing relationships as well as boosting the development. Now, this was stressed during the official launching of the Yambere project, an initiative by the Ministry of Emergency Management in partnership with the World Bank. Ghislaine Mogoneza with the details.
The project aims at improving access to basic services and economic opportunities for refugees. These basic services include schools and road construction, water distribution, hospitals, and building market for the refugees. Mugomga camp refugees and nearby neighbors have said that the services in this project will help them in boosting their development. This project has come in the right time we needed it, because it will help us in the small projects we have, as well as helping us in improving our well-being than before. People can grow crops, but it's nothing when there are no markets. So we are happy that they are going to construct markets and roads for us. Our roads were not well constructed before. After reconstructing the roads, crops will be delivered in Huye and Kigali, and we shall get profits and enough money to provide for our families. The Minister in charge of Emergency Management at Minema, Marie-Solange Kaisire, said this project will empower the refugees and residents that live near the camp. These activities that are about to operate in this camp are activities that will be added to the existing ones, be it schools or other activities. But on those projects, they used to work together, as they have said. This is to empower them to work more together for their development. Jambere project is due to operate in 6 districts with refugees camps, and $60 million were spent on this project.
On behalf of the entire news team that made this news possible, thank you very much for being part of us. My name is Fiona Mbabazi. Have yourselves a lovely evening. Enjoy the rest of your Friday.